I have budgeted to travel to over 20 countries in the past 10 years, all while in college or on an annual salary of less than $40,000. So today I wanted to share with you 10 tips to make travel more affordable and accessible for everyone. Let's jump right in. My first tip is to watch flight prices online and to compare airlines. Many people recommend booking flights on Tuesdays, but I recommend just watching the flights to see when they are cheapest and just booking them when you find that they're most inexpensive. I use tools like Google Flights, Kayak, and Skiplagged to compare flight prices. I have also heard that Kiwi.com and Scott's Cheap Flights are also great options for finding inexpensive airfare. I tend to find flights on these sites, but then actually go to the actual airline to book the flights on their site because often it's just a couple dollars cheaper on their site anyway. Most recommendations say that you should book domestic flights anywhere from 1 to 3 months in advance of your trip. Booking more than 3 months early can actually be more expensive, and obviously booking in the last month before travel, the prices tend to be more expensive as well. For international flights, book anywhere from 4 to 7 months in advance of your trip for the best deals. When you're searching for flights, try to remember to clear your browsing history and use an incognito window. Websites track if you've looked at prices before and bump up prices if they know you've searched before. My second tip is to be open to long layovers. Sometimes the cheapest flights do have layovers in different locations, and flights with long layovers can actually be really awesome. I have had long layovers in both Paris and Madrid in the past, and it can be really fun to get out of the airport, stretch your legs, and explore a new city for the day. This can save you money because you can sleep on the flight over, explore the city, and then sleep on your next flight. So it can actually save you money on accommodations because you're spending 2 nights on an airplane instead of spending nights in the cities that you're visiting. My third tip is do not pay baggage fees. Many airlines, especially on international trips, will allow all passengers to bring a carry-on item and a personal bag for free. I have a backpacking backpack that I take on all of my international trips as my carry-on. I travel out of a backpack for any trip that is a month or less. It is often much cheaper to actually have my clothes laundered while I'm traveling than to pay for an additional or a bigger bag. Additionally, I always travel with my backpacking backpack even on domestic flights. I have found that because it's a backpack, I can often get it on flights as a personal item, even on budget airlines like Frontier or Spirit. This tip can be a bit risky because you could get to the window. This tip can be a bit risky because you could get to the gate and have a really... Take 3. This tip can be a bit risky because you could get a gate agent who's just having a bad day and decides to enforce the personal bag item size, but I have actually never experienced this issue before. I should probably knock on some wood. I have always been allowed onto the plane with my backpacking backpack as my personal item, and then because most people aren't using the overhead bin space and are not paying for a carry-on, I just pop my backpack up there. But as I mentioned before, use this tip at your own risk for budget domestic flights. My fourth tip is to not travel during peak season. Peak season often means higher prices and larger crowds. Peak season is different for different countries, so be sure to do a quick Google search to find out when peak season is for the country or the destination that you are trying to visit. As a general rule, I find that traveling in October and early November, as well as in January and February, tend to be the cheapest. In addition to not traveling during peak season, if you are able, be sure to use the search functions that allow you to search for flexible dates when looking for flights. Often departing a day earlier or later than you had planned, or returning a day earlier or later than you planned, could save you hundreds of dollars. If you can be flexible with your dates, I recommend trying to find flights that are cheapest first and then ask off of work based on those dates, rather than asking off of work first and then trying to fit your travel plans into those dates. My fifth tip is all about finding inexpensive accommodations. I often do not stay in hotels when traveling because Airbnb is so widespread and can be much more inexpensive. Some countries don't allow Airbnb, so do some research to figure out the most common ways to book accommodations in that country. For example, I think it was Thailand where my friend Sheila found that Airbnbs were not actually legal. And so she used a site called Agoda to book most of our accommodations for that trip. Hostels can also be an inexpensive option. Hostels are really like dorm rooms where you share accommodations with other travelers. You might be sleeping in a bunk bed and sharing a bathroom, but you can find accommodations for less than $40 a night. This can be great for solo travelers because many accommodations are designed and priced for two, and hostels can be a great way to meet other travelers. Hostels are most common amongst 20 and 30 somethings, so I really only recommend hostels for that age group. I used to stay in hostels a lot when I first started traveling, but now I feel like I've sort of graduated to Airbnb. If you are looking for hostels, I used to use hostelworld.com to find, compare, and book hostels. I have never used couch surfing, but there are people who will allow you to crash on their couch for free, but I would proceed with extreme caution in this area and only crash on couches of people who you already have relationships with. There are also sites like workaway.com that will allow you to volunteer your time in exchange for accommodations and food. My 6th tip is to pick travel destinations where you have family and friends. Family and friends can be great resources when you are traveling. Friends and family would know the most inexpensive and authentic sites and experiences in the city, and could direct you to the best places to save money as you travel. They may have a friend who's willing to drive you around for the day at a discounted rate. Additionally, maybe friends and family would allow you to crash with them for the time that you're there, which would allow you to save a bunch of money on accommodations. My 7th tip is all about transportation. Choose accommodations that are close to public transit, especially when you're traveling in larger cities. Taking the bus or metro as opposed to taking taxis can save you a bunch of money. So if you have access to a bus stop or a train station or a metro station on a popular line, you can avoid taking taxis everywhere. Additionally, it can be cheaper to arrange a private driver in advance instead of just expecting to find a taxi when you are there. Sheila and I, well, mostly Sheila, have arranged private drivers when traveling from the airport to our accommodations or when traveling to less popular sites, because private drivers can be more affordable, and then you know that you will get to the destination rather than just winging it. My 8th tip pains me a bit to share. But my 8th tip is to not eat out for every meal of the day. The reason that I say that this pains me a bit to share is that I do want you to immerse yourself in the culture while you are traveling. I don't want you to spend all this money to get to a destination only to not experience the local cuisine because you're cooking spaghetti in your Airbnb to try to save money. However, there are ways to save money on food while traveling. It can be an awesome experience to hit up a local market and buy some fresh meat and cheese and bread and fruit and then eat your picnic lunch at a local park. Buying food at a local market can be both a culturally immersive experience and allow you to save more money than you would otherwise spend by eating at a restaurant. I've also heard of really unique dining experiences like ramen vending machines in Japan that can be a really cool experience and allow you to save way more money than you would otherwise spend by eating at a restaurant. If you are really on a tight budget, eating out for lunch can be cheaper than eating out for dinner. Ask the locals to tell you about their favorite hole-in-the-wall places that can be much cheaper than the touristy restaurants that are in the touristy areas of town. I also recommend looking for accommodations that include breakfast. In Thailand, Sheila and I stayed in this boutique hotel that included breakfast in the price of the hotel. I will never forget it. Every morning they would bring us out this huge 3-course breakfast with all of these different options and different foods we got to try. It was insane. Getting that free breakfast every morning saved us so much money because we were able to fill up in the morning and then feel really fueled to go out for our day. If your accommodations offer free breakfast, remember to grab a piece of fruit or a piece of bread or a pastry before you head out for the day and shove it in your bag so that you can eat it later as a snack. My 9th tip is to split costs with a group of travelers when possible. Sometimes it can be much cheaper per person to book a private tour with a group of people than it is to get on a tour where everyone pays their own way. Sheila and I did this for a boat tour once. The prices online were crazy, so we just showed up, found another group that hadn't booked tickets yet, and booked a private tour on the spot, which ended up actually saving us a bunch of money. If you are staying in a hostel, arranging day trips and travel plans with other travelers in your hostel can be a great way to save money. My 10th and final tip is to save for your trip before you go. I personally set aside money every single month for travel because I know that it's something that I really value and I like to travel often. When I go to book a trip, then I've already been saving money and have some money set aside to be able to take that trip. If you do not have any money saved up for travel, but know that you want to travel to a specific destination in the future, do a quick internet search to figure out how much the average flight, accommodations, meals, transport, and attractions will cost for your city. Divide that total by the number of months you have left before the trip to figure out how much you need to save each month to be able to afford that trip. If you cannot afford to save that amount each month, consider pushing the trip back a couple months so that you have more time to save each month for that trip. I did this for my upcoming trip to Argentina. My sister invited me to go with her, so I had to take some time to crunch the numbers and divide by the number of months until the trip so that I could make an informed decision about whether or not I could go on the trip without going into any debt. Do not go into debt to travel. Make sure that you always have the money set aside in advance to travel wherever you want to go. Whew, that was long. I have paid my own way to travel to over 20 countries on an annual salary of less than $40,000 a year without going into debt, so I know that it is also possible for you to travel too. I hope that you found something in this video that will allow you to travel more frugally in the future. Please give this video a thumbs up if you learned something that you can implement, and let me know in the comments below your best money-saving travel tips. Please subscribe to my channel. I upload new videos about finance and money every single week. Thank you for watching and supporting my channel. I will see you in the next video.